Hello. It is late on a, well, it's not that late. I'm trying to go to bed earlier, so it's late for me. It's late on a Monday night. And I debated whether I was going to do this one, because this is a show I only kind of know. But I watched the movie anyways, and I had to say something. This is my review. I've heard a lot about this movie too. And this is my review of The Many Saints of Newark. The Sopranos movie that was released recently. Now, like I said, I didn't have HBO for the first couple of seasons of Sopranos, so I didn't come in until the tail end. From where I understand, the show got not as good. So my opinion of The Sopranos is kind of mixed at best. I'm of the opinion that series finale, that ending, was utter bullshit. Everybody likes to praise it as some sort of brilliant thing. I see it as a group of writers who couldn't figure out how to end the show, so they just got fed up and just ended it the way they ended it, and it's completely uncreative and unoriginal. And now I've had many people argue for years that it was actually some kind of brilliant thing where it's supposed to be lifted up into interpretation, it's totally artistic. But then I watched this movie, and I feel like I'm proven right. That it was just a group of writers who had lost interest and didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Because this movie fucking sucks. It fucking sucked. I'm not even going to take it from the point of how it relates to The Sopranos, because it's only kind of, but also way too much, if that makes any sense. But just as taken as a gangster flick, it's an utter piece of shit. It's embarrassing how bad it is. It's funny, when it ended, I got myself thinking to another movie that comes off in a similar situation, the movie being El Camino, which was the Breaking Bad movie that was supposed to take place after the end of that show. Now, a lot of people complained about that movie, and rightfully so, that the story just felt kind of pointless, that we didn't need this anymore. Walter White was gone. You know, it was nice to get a little catch up with Jesse, but it just wasn't a good enough story to support a movie on its own. And there's just, that's a justifiable argument. This movie felt not only as pointless as that movie, but it was also stupid. El Camino wasn't stupid. It wasn't poorly written or badly acted. This movie was poorly written and badly acted. I don't even know where to start. Let's start at the beginning, because it starts off stupid as shit. It starts off in a graveyard, and as you're passing by graves, you just hear voices. And you realize you're hearing the voices of the people who are buried in those graves telling you how they died. So it's like a ghost story, kind of. Perfect for October. Then we get to the grave of one Christopher Moltisanti. Now, if you watch The Sopranos, you know that Christopher Moltisanti was played by Michael Imperioli. And if I was watching The Sopranos around the season where he got killed. So spoiler alert if you don't know how that happened, but in the show, Christopher gets into a car accident, which actually wasn't his fault. If I remember correctly, it was like two teenage girls fucking cut him off in traffic and ran him off the road. He was driving and Tony was in the passenger seat. But Christopher was also high on coke at the time. He had a fucking drug problem. And Tony, who walks away from the accident relatively unscathed, sees that Christopher is in bad shape. So he just suffocates him in the car and kills him. So Tony kills Christopher. And Christopher gives it away right at the beginning of the movie. He's like, I was killed, this is my uncle Tony Soprano, and he killed me. And he starts off just telling the story, and it shows an older guy with a kid. And he says, the kid is his uncle Tony who kills him. And the older guy is one Dickie Moltisanti, who was Christopher's father. Dickie and Tony are going to meet Dickie's father, Hollywood Dick Moltisanti, who's coming back from Italy with his new bride. What the fuck was her name? I got it somewhere here. Giuseppina Moltisanti, who's played by Michela De Rossi. Oh, let me go back a second. It doesn't matter who there's a kid actor who plays young Tony Soprano, but he's there for like half the movie almost, but he doesn't matter. Dicky Moltisanti is played by Alessandro Nivola. His father, Hollywood Dick Moltisanti, is played by Ray Liotta, and then there's Giuseppina Moltisanti, Hollywood Dick's wife, is played by Michela De Rossi. Now, from what they don't really say it out loud, but from what I can see, it looks like the current head of the family. I mean, the head of the Moltisanti family is Hollywood Dick, and his son is like answers to him. I mean, everything in this movie is so blatant and overacted. Like, right away, you can see that Dickie wants to fuck his new stepmother. He's married and everything, but he obviously wants to fuck his father's new, much younger wife. And she seems to be feeling the vibes, too. Oh, pardon me. He's very close with his nephew, Tony. And at one point, there's just all these actors running around pretending to be people, acting as people from the show. And some of the caricatures of them are ridiculous. A character that only appeared in flashbacks on the show was Tony's father, John Soprano, who's played by John Bernthal, who's probably best known as the Punisher. He does as fine as anybody does in this show. Then there's Uncle Junior, who's played by Corey Stoll. Then there's who else is there? We got Silvio, who's played by John Magaro, I think his name is. He is so ridiculous in this movie. This particular actor, I don't know why he was. He's terrible. He's fucking terrible. He is so overboard with how he plays Silvio. It almost looks like he's making fun of Steven Van Zandt, who played Silvio in the original show. And it almost looks like he's playing him gay at some points. I'm like, why is he acting like that? I don't understand. Silvio didn't act like that. It's just. Then you have a guy named Billy Magnuson, who plays Paulie Walnuts. He has only a few parts, but he's fine. He's barely in it. Then you have this guy named Samson Moekiola, who plays Big Pussy. Now, I was like, did they just get some Samoan guy to play Big Pussy? He turns out he's actually half Italian, half Tongan. But he looks way more Tongan than Italian. So it's just like, what is going on here? It doesn't really matter. And then Tony's mother, Livia Soprano, is played by Vera Farmiga, who's fine. But everybody in this movie is overacting. Like, by the fifth time you hear one of the guys just go, "Oh!" You're just like, what is this? This is just, it almost looks like, if I was an Italian person, I'd be offended by this movie. Because it almost just looks like they're making fun of Italian people. It's funny that I watched this on Columbus Day of all days, but it really does, it's like they're mocking Italian people. It's like it was like people acting Italian who have never actually met Italian people. It's kind of like when you meet a white kid who acts black and you realize you've never actually met a black person, have you? You're just acting the way you think you've seen black people act on TV. And then also, for some reason, Joey Diaz is there playing a guy whose name I don't recall them mentioning in the movie, but when I looked it up, they had him listed as Buddha. I don't know. I don't remember him even saying his name. He's just there for some reason. I like Joey Diaz, but I don't know why he was fucking there. I would tell you the plot of this movie, but there isn't much to speak of. Like the original trailer of this movie really presented it as Tony Soprano's origin story, but it's really not. He just shows up every now and then. Let's break it down. So, Dickie Montesanti's father, Hollywood Dick, comes back, and he's the head of the family, and everything seems like whatever. At some point in the movie, Dickie has a guy who works for him named Harold McBrayer, who's played by Leslie Odom Jr. He's a black guy who just works for him, but he's obviously, because he's black, Italians don't exactly fucking treat him well. That's why it always makes fun of me. That it's always funny to me when Italians try to act like they're black, and it's just like, motherfucker, you are some of the most racist motherfuckers on earth. Italians have been historically some of the most racist sons of bitches ever. You don't get to treat black people like shit and then claim you're black. Okay, you're from Europe, motherfuckers. You're white. All right. Just because you were the shittiest treated Europeans who came over here doesn't mean you get to start claiming you're black. You ain't black. You're fucking European. You're fucking white. Get the fuck over it. Okay. Anyways, that guy works for Dickie, and he's treated shitty by the other members of the family. Dickie's the only one who's kind of nice to him, but he just treats him like a fucking errand boy. This whole movie runs through. There's this weird background story of just like racism and racial inequality, because it takes place mostly through the first half of the movie takes place in the 60s, and the next half takes place in the 70s. So it's dealing with the issues of race, and there's a scene at one point where you see a cab driver just drop a guy off by going the wrong way down a one-way street, and then he gets pulled over by the cops for that, and then they yank him out of the fucking car and take his money, and you're just like, what was the point of that fucking scene? But then that leads to a riot breaking out in Newark, and I'm wondering if there's any truth to that. Let me see. I probably should have looked that up probably should have looked that up before. Riot in that's not what I wanted. Riot in the Many Saints of New York. Okay, here we go. From July 12th until July 17th in 1967, police and protesters battled in the streets as is depicted in the Many Saints of New York. 26 people were killed and over 700 were injured, the majority of them black residents of the city. So that actually happened. I figured that was a real thing. Let's see. The true story of the Many... Yeah, okay, so that happened in 1967. Yeah, so they beat up and arrested the guy. And it led to a 5-day fucking riot. And they had to call in the National Guard and everything. But there was shit like that going on all over the country at that time. It was not exactly a great time. Now you're wondering, like, why the fuck, like, why is this in this movie? Like, what does this have to do with anything? Is it just Trem trying to like attach to real history, or I don't want to use the word woke. I hate that fucking word, but is that them trying to be some sort of culturally relevant thing in relation to racism? I don't know. But they do play it into the movie. Ray Liotta's character, Hollywood Dick, as you might expect, is not exactly cool with his new younger wife. And in fact, at one point they get into an argument, he kicks her down a flight of stairs. She then commiserates with Dickie, who's obviously got the hots for her. Dickie encounters the riot after it breaks out at one point. He gets hit in the head with a bottle, and they show how like something was burning in the background, and you see that like things are bad. So while this is happening, he's commiserating with his new stepmother, and she tries to kiss him, and he pulls away. He's like, you're my father's wife and everything, and he's like, he can't do that. Later on, his father's driving at night, and Dickie gets in the car with him. And Dickie then automatically, right away, confronts his father about hitting his new stepmother. And they get into an argument, and at one point, Ray Liotta's character calls Dickie's mother a slut. And then Dickie just starts beating the shit out of his father. He beats him so bad, he starts slamming his head into the fucking steering wheel of the car. He fucking kills him. He kills his father right there, which is bad. His father's the head of the family. He can't just kill his old man. So he decides to drive to one of their fucking businesses that they own, and he drops his father's body inside and then torches the place. That's what the riots are for. He used the riots as cover for why his father got killed. After that, they show John Soprano go to jail for like an attempted murder charge or something. He ends up in prison for like 2 to 5 years. Dickie, now you're thinking at this point, if you watch the trailer, you're like, if Ray Liotta's character is dead, there were scenes between Dickie and Ray Liotta that don't make sense now. And I was like, was that misleading? Turns out it wasn't. Dickie goes to prison to visit his uncle, Salvatore Moltisanti. Now, Salvatore was his father, Hollywood Dick's twin brother. So that's how Ray Liotta shows up again. He's now playing Salvatore, Dickie's uncle. Dickie's talking to him, and Salvatore's like distant because they didn't know each other. He was never allowed to come visit him because I guess when he was a young man, Salvatore killed a made guy in the mob, and now he's in jail for life for it. So Dickie's father forbid anyone to have any contact with him. He was basically dead to the family. Salvatore just accepts that. So Dickie starts talking to his uncle, saying like he wants to do a good deed, he wants to be a better man, and all that shit. Just someone he commiserates with. And occasionally Salvatore will say things suggesting that he doesn't always believe Dickie's stories about what's happening, about how his father died or shit like that. But he never outright says anything. Like he's just kind of like humoring his nephew to some degree. At this point, we move into the 70s. Now, Tony Soprano's the actor who plays Tony Soprano is played by Michael Gandolfini, who was given the part because he bears such a striking resemblance to his father, James Gandolfini, who played Tony Soprano in the show. His acting is not good, but it's also not worse than anyone else's in the movie. Like I said, it's embarrassing how bad everyone is in this movie. So his acting is not great, but he's a rookie actor, and it's like, it doesn't stand out as any worse than anyone else's. Everyone in this movie is terrible. Everyone in this movie is fucking terrible. The black actors are fine. By the way, that black guy I mentioned, Harold McBrayer, he has since now broken off from working for Dickie and is now basically trying to start his own racket in the black part of Newark. And one of the things he does is he ends up robbing one of Dickie's guys to take over that part of the protection racket. And Dickie does not respond well to that, so he kills one of Harold's guys trying to figure out who Harold is working for. But then he finds out that Harold is not working for anybody, he's working for himself now, which kind of shocks Dickie a little bit. Now at this point, Dickie has also started fucking his former stepmother and has taken her on as his side chick, as fucking, you know, as Italian gangsters tend to do. They have an arrangement where he's gonna start he's gonna buy her a hair salon so she can have her own business and everything. And they have an argument about that, and she feels like he doesn't properly respect her. So at another point, you see when he's talking to Harold, Harold keeps looking at her, at Gia Sapina, Dickie's stepmother. He keeps looking at her like he likes her. And Dickie sees it, but he sure as shit doesn't like it. And just out of the blue, Gia Sapina and Harold are fucking. Don't even know how that sort of got set up. It just sort of happened. And they keep coming back to Tony at this point and just saying how he's not, you know, focused in school, and, you know, they show that Dickie is the only one he listens to. His father just beats him. His mother fucking berates him. They get into how everybody just can't stand his mother because she's just a fucking lunatic. The reaction between her and John Bernthal are fucking hilarious. It's I guess she's supposed to be bipolar, but she just, it comes off so comedic. There's a scene that is, I don't know who the fuck wrote this scene, but it's John Soprano and his wife Livia are in the front seat of the car. John's driving. In the back seat is Dickie Moltisanti and his wife. Not his girlfriend, his wife. And they're talking about Tony. And Livia just starts complaining at some point, and John just can't stand it. He takes out a gun and shoots. You know how women will wear their hair high back in these days? He shoots her in the hair bun. And everyone's just quiet, and it's just like, that is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. That's lunacy. And it just looks ridiculous. There's another scene where after Dickie killed Harold's guy, Harold tries a hit on him. They kill fucking Joey Diaz at this scene. And then it's just left to him and John to fight him off. And they kill a couple of Harold's guys. But John runs out of ammo. And then at one point, it's like Harold just follows Dickie into a bar that he owns, and it's just like, did you just forget there was another guy? Like, what happened to John? Like, he's just, like, nobody cares that he was there anymore. I know his gun ran out of bullets, but he could have done something. And then Dickie shoots like a hole through the wall, and he and Harold look at each other. They both have loaded shotguns, but they just look at each other and then just walk away. It's like, weren't you guys just trying to kill each other? What the fuck is going on? It's so fucking weird. And Harold's making deals with, like, Frank Lucas, who's for some reason is a part of this. I don't know why they included him in this. It's like, did you want to make a movie about this black character? Sounds like it might have been more interesting than what you're making here. And it seems like Dickie keeps trying to, like, relate to Tony only listens to Dickie, and Dickie, you know, gives Tony stolen shit, and it's almost like he's kind of bringing him in into everything that's happening. At Joey Diaz's character's funeral, Uncle Junior slips on some, it's raining that day, so he slips on some steps walking out of the funeral home and hurts his back. and Dickie just starts laughing at him for some reason. You don't know why. These two have almost no interaction in the movie. They barely have any interaction. It's just that, you know, Uncle Junior is Tony's actual uncle, who Tony obviously doesn't like, and Dickie is his not blood-related uncle, but he obviously likes him way more, and that seems to annoy Junior to some extent. There's also suggestions that Junior, it might be gay, which, that's new. And so he falls and hurts his back, and Dickie laughs, and Junior just doesn't like that. And they show another scene that he's still like fucked up because of his back, and he's just angry at Dickie for it for some reason. There's all this shit going on around Dickie now. And it was always a question in the show, who killed Dickie? There was a point where Tony told Christopher that it was some cop who did it, that was being paid off. But they never said why or who ordered it, or if even that was even really true. But he just, let's see. Let me run down the rest of it. Dickie finally seems to have things good with his fucking side piece, and when things are finally good between them, they're walking along the beach, and she admits that she fucked Harold. Dickie freaks out, kills her, drowns her in the ocean. They finally figure out where Harold is hiding, so they're going to go after him. Dickie goes and sees his uncle one last time, and he says that, you know, his girlfriend died. He makes up a story about pneumonia, and his uncle once again doesn't. You get the hint that he doesn't quite buy it, and he says that he is, you know, the only close relationship he really seems to have is with his nephew Tony, and his uncle basically tells him, he's like, you know, if you really want to do something good, you should get out of that kid's life. It's like, you're not going to bring anything good to his life. You're going to just turn him into another criminal piece of shit like you. So he just cuts off Tony completely, and there's a few scenes that sort of depict that Tony takes a minute to get the hint that his uncle doesn't want to talk to him anymore, and he then gets pissed off. He breaks these speakers that his uncle fucking stole and gave to him. And he says he wants no part of the life. Then his uncle, Dickie, who's not doing well at this point, he's just at home, and he gets shot in the back of the head. Who shot him? Well, all of a sudden you see Junior get a phone call and just get word that it's done. Uncle Junior had Dickie killed because he laughed at him for falling and hurting his back. I didn't realize that, you knew Junior was an asshole, but I didn't realize he was that big of an asshole. They should have built more animosity between these two to justify this, because this kind of comes so just like almost completely out of the blue. It's like, with all the reasons you could have had that Dickie was killed, somebody could have figured out that he killed his father. Fucking Harold, who he was at war with, could have killed him. Frank Lucas, who was suggesting that he might help Harold, could have fucking killed him. It could have just been some other fucking gang shit, mobster shit. There's a lot of mobster shit happening in the fucking 70s. It could have been any of that. But it's just like, no, it was just some fucking personal slight. So then they're at Dickie's fucking funeral, and while he's there, Tony's just standing over his fucking coffin, and all of a sudden you just see Dickie, like, hand come up and raise his finger, and Tony gives the fucking pinky swear thing. Like, was that a thing they did? I don't even recall them doing that. They might have done that at some other point in the movie. I don't remember it, though. And then you just hear the fucking music from the beginning of The Sopranos start playing. It's so fucking cheesy and lame. You know, it made me think of how fucking Martin Scorsese talks shit about, like, superhero movies and everything like that, and saying they weren't real movies and everything, and that they were so formulaic and bullshit. Like, and I get what the point he was trying to make, and while I don't fully agree with everything he said, he did have a point. But the thing is, it was almost like someone did that formulaic bullshit, but for gangster flicks when they made this movie, because it is such a cliched mess. There's so many, like, it's like it doesn't want to be a fucking Sopranos prequel, but it's nothing but a Sopranos prequel, but in all the worst ways, because it's just constant like winks and nudges, like you see that? That's like the thing. And it's like in the beginning we get that the ghost of Christopher, who is just occasionally narrating this movie, he just pops in and out every now and then. He's not even like narrating all the way through. I think he like says he has like 3 lines in the whole movie, or just like 3 places where he talks. There's a scene where they show Christopher as a baby, and when they bring him close to Tony, he just starts crying. And he goes, he's like, I don't know. He's like, he's always crying. It's like he's scared of me or something, which is already a nice little wink to the audience, like, because he kills him. We told you that at the beginning of the movie. We're doubling down on that. And that could have just been the scene there. But then there's like some old lady who just says, they say that babies, they bring knowledge from the other side. It's like, what the fuck? Yes, we know that Tony kills Christopher. You literally reminded us of that at the beginning of the movie. And then it's just supposed to be at the end of the movie that, that little pinky swear thing. That didn't happen because he's looking at a corpse, so he's just imagining that pinky swear in his head is Tony, like, accepting that, like, he's gonna be a gangster now. It's so dumb. This was such a dumb movie. It's a really dumb movie. I get what, like, all the early reviews of it, you could tell were, Warner Brother or whoever made this, HBO, carefully selecting who they let do the early reviews, because all the reviews since it's come out have been people just talking shit. Just basically saying, this is the dumbest fucking movie. All the articles are saying, what went wrong with this movie? Everything went wrong with this movie. It was a stupid fucking story that was poorly fucking written. All the acting is fucking awful and over the top. It was completely fucking unnecessary. It was just dumb. It was just dumb. It's a dumb fucking movie. I give it no fucking thumbs up. I would highly recommend you skip over it. I just wanted to watch it just to see, and I'm fucking sad that I wasted my fucking evening doing that. So yeah, The Many Saints of Newark. Skip this shit. Go watch something better. You want to watch a fucking good gangster flick? Go watch one of Martin Scorsese's many gangster flicks. Even The Irishman was better than this shit. And that's an overlong fucking snooze fest. Go watch fucking, go watch Goodfellas. Go watch Casino. Hell, watch the fucking, Godfather trilogy. Oh my god, I almost fucking forgot. There's a scene in the fucking beginning where Tony's sister, I forget her fucking name. What the fuck is her name? I forget her fucking name. Tony's sister is having her first fucking communion, and it's like a poor man's version of the opening scene of The Godfather, where Michael's sister is getting married. It's like such a sad bootleg knockoff version of that, and it was clearly what that was supposed to be, and just done so fucking poorly. It's hilarious. Just another example of how shitty this movie is. But it's like, is this, like, if this is where gangster flicks are, it's like they're in very bad shape. So Marty, I wouldn't worry about superhero films. You got your own fucking shit to worry about. Get your own fucking house in order, dude. But yeah, Many Saints in Newark, no, absolutely not. They should have just let The Sopranos, they should have just let it go as it was. Ugh. Alright, that's it. I'm done rambling. That movie sucked. Have a good night.